Hello, welcome to a new video. Today I'm going to break down my new song Find My Way, which just got released on ANTITHESYS Records. If you haven't listened to the song yet, I would really appreciate if you check it out because I really put a lot of effort into it and it really means a lot to me, so I would appreciate it a ton. Now I will just show all the individual elements in this song. So initially I made this project during New Year's Eve. I started this project in 2024 and had a final result in 2025 when the new year began, where I was like 3 or 4 hours into 2025, and the drops and everything were done, and also the intro and midsection, but the drops were half the size basically. So initially this one was the first drop. Yeah, this color based melodic drop, and the second drop was this one right here. And I sent this tune to a feedback stream, by Barking Continues on Twitch, and he really enjoyed the song, and he said that I should extend this second drop, which was just this one, with the vocals, and let it play without the vocal chops before, and then just introduce the vocal chops later, like I did here now. So without, and then with the vocal chops. I also switched the arrangement basically by moving this first drop to the back and making it the second drop now, and then I also extended it by adding the vocal chop part again with some slight variations, because I really like the vibe. This is the element which sticks out the most with the vocal, because always humans remember vocal elements in songs the most, and I think this is a really catchy element. Let's start with the actual breakdown. I think I started with the chord progression. I usually start with chord progressions when making melodic tunes, and this was the chord progression I did. Just with a plug right here. Just being filtered. And also a variation here. With no final fourth chord. Which led to a more open and intense feel, I think. I layered this with a WPS Avenger bass. Just a really simple saw bass with some post-processing, distortion, some reverb. I really like the sound of it when it opens up. And I also layered it with a bunch of other renders. I don't know where they come from. I think I just resampled some stuff a few times. So just for some background layers. This was a choir from Contact. With some additional post-processing. It's also a render of something I can't remember of. Maybe if you want to get more into detail, just watch the stream from New Year's Eve where I made the song, and then you can see how everything came to its place if you want a more in-depth context. Also, we had this vocal, which I found in this really cool sample pack, which also Skrillex and Riot have been using a lot, or a few times already, by 0G, and it's called Vocal Foundry. And just did some processing here with some shifting, also showed out Au5 feature and phase for this really cool shifting device. I think this is free on their Patreon. Definitely check this one out. And Spec Complete by Nasko. Also a little shout out right here. And some reverb. And this is basically the main vocal, which is also the pre-drop. We also have a few samples right here, like this with Riot Bell sample, which I post-process a little bit with Portal, some auto pen, auto filter, EQing and stuff. Also this cool with Riot sample with some EFX fragments on top to give it some nice texture. And also some filtering, some more minor stuff like impacts and sweeps and downlifters. Also we have some drums going on, which is basically just some percussion, which I arranged myself by just finding a cool few Fully hits and samples from the Riot Patreon Fully sample pack. And I think this was also one of the first elements I did here. I had this with a few break samples. I really like using breaks in intros. And they have some post-processing going on right here. Also some claps in addition. This is basically the intro. Then we have some uplifters. Actually, not many risers and uplifters going on. I think there's just one riser. And this sample, or this render, I can't remember exactly where they come from or came from. Definitely check out the stream if you want to see how I made them. And then we have the drop. And for the drop, I used Nasko drums. I really like Nasko drums in melodic contexts. They always fit really, really well. Put up Nasko on these insane drum samples. Also with some additional post-processing. Actually, just some clipping. Some volume boost and soft clipping. Some cymbals, some crashes and stuff. And then the main element, which is just two sounds combined together. First, we have this gong, which was from the Donk Ableton rack by Riot, which you can also get on his Patreon. And I did some additional post-processing with an EQ. And the end spec complied. And we also had this lead layer, which was really, really fun. It was also a preset originally. Don't be ashamed to use presets. Originally, it was sounding like this. This was a plug from the VPS Avenger. Really aggressive sound. And I let it pass through and Prism for some melodic tonal information, some filtering, some end spec complied, some parallel reverb chain, dry, and EQing, washout, filtering, and some end spec complied again at the end. And these are going into this group chain with a little dynamic EQ right here, end spec complied, some further EQing, and a flipper at the end. Also, we have some percussion going on, and some, And I really like the creative process of arranging everything together. And the other main element, which comes in later, was the vocal sample, which I did some intense processing, as you can see here. I think this is the most catchy part here. Also, the fun part is I didn't use any autotune here. The vocal was perfect for this. We have some parallel reverb chain going on, some echo, some EQing, some clipping, I guess. Yeah, clipping, more EQing, some NSYNC, which is basically a soothe alternative, but it's just being modulated in at some points here. And it's just being used for the very, very harsh frequencies which were occurring in this bit right here. Definitely check this out on Nasko's Patreon as well. This is actually one of the most simple drop arrangements I ever did. But it worked, and I'm really, really happy with how everything turned out. And it's always really fun to set some challenges like a 12-hour song challenge and to pressure yourself to get a song done. Then we have the midsection, which now reduces the chords to just 3 in total, which I showed earlier, with some little counter melody on top, which I found nice because it let it sound a little bit more mysterious. The bass again, some renders, more ear candy stuff with some EFX fragments, autopan, shaper box, and all the standard kind of stuff. Then we had this arpeggio going on, which I didn't show in the first build up basically, but it's actually the same with 3 layers. This is a really, really simple 0-1 patch I did. Then we have a wavetable, which I generated with this rack by Riot, which he sent me last year. Really, really cool rack. And a VPS Avenger plug on top. And they all have lots of processing going on, as you can see here. And some group processing as well. And yeah, everything else is basically the same. We have the pre-drop vocal again. And these build-up vocals again. The second drop is definitely different when it starts, which I really was my goal here, to excite the listener for something new and not something repeating again. I really put a lot of work into it, and I can also remember that it was hard to me to come up with an idea. I took some inspiration from Reconnect by Riot, where the first bars are basically introduced with these repetitive snares going on, which sounds like this. But in the Riot Reconnect song, it's basically continuing this pattern for another 2 bars right here. But then I switch it up immediately after 2 bars and not let it go for 4 bars in total before the switch up. And then this all and response part. This was really fun to make. We have this sound right here, which was originally atonal, just some noise, which I did with faceplant and some processing here. And then I let it run through some effect racks right here to make the fundamental colorful. This is basically a color-based drop. We have this render right here, which was just a sound from my sound design gem from October, with some frequency shifting, with some spectral gating, and some N-prism. And N-prism is basically the cleanest way to make sounds colorful. Definitely also check it out on Nasko's Patreon. I'm using so much stuff here in this song, which comes from his Patreon. Definitely check it out. A brass on top, and a zap for the transients. And together, they also have some group processing going on, some EQing, and some end-step complied. We have some background up going on. That's really nice. And also later at the end we have this coming in again. Just to be a patch here for the transition. We also have the call hit basically. With just a sub. Some chord hits basically, with some group processing going on to make them fat. With ends back on light again, without, and with, and also layered with the vocal, which has an additional layer going on, which was made with N-prism again, and this was really fun for some additional ear candy on top. And then we basically had the repetition of the first drop with some slight variations. And for the outro, I just used some ear candy stuff again. And for the outro, I just used some impacts and downlifters and some ear candy stuff. And this is basically how I did my song Find My Way. I hope you enjoyed this little breakdown. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. And if you have any questions, feel free to drop them. And if you are more interested in the entire creative process of the song, definitely check out the stream I did on New Year's Eve, where I made basically everything in 12 hours. And don't forget to stream this song, which is out on all streaming services. It would mean a lot if you can support this song and leave a comment on SoundCloud, for example, and like it and put it to your playlists. And thanks for watching. See you in the next video and have a great day. Goodbye.